Please help her, the black girl screamed. The billionaire was shocked to hear it. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The rain poured heavily that evening, as if the skies themselves were mourning. The cold wind cut through the streets, carrying the sound of hurried footsteps and distant car horns. Beneath the flickering streetlight, a small figure stood frozen in place, clutching her jacket tightly around her fragile body. She looked no older than 8, yet her eyes told a story of a much deeper pain. Her voice broke the silence, sharp and filled with desperation. "Please help her," she screamed, her words almost lost in the howling wind. A passing car slowed, its headlights flashing over her, but the driver, a man in a suit, barely gave her a second glance. He was in a hurry, as usual, focused on the endless tasks of the day. But then, something stopped him. The girl's voice, so full of fear, so full of need, echoed in his mind. He slammed his foot on the brake, the tires screeching slightly on the wet pavement as he pulled over. The billionaire sat in his car, staring at the small child standing in the middle of the street, her hands shaking, her eyes wide with panic. He couldn't explain why, but he felt a tug in his chest. Something wasn't right. Something was wrong. The girl's voice rang in his ears again, and this time, he couldn't ignore it. He opened his door and stepped into the rain, his suit quickly soaking through. As he approached, the girl took a hesitant step back, clutching the small bundle in her arms even tighter. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice soft but firm. The girl looked up at him, her eyes full of confusion and fear. "Please, she's hurt. She's my mom. She needs help." Her words, though simple, carried an overwhelming weight. The billionaire's mind raced. He had seen this kind of thing before, the desperation, the cries for help. But this was different. This wasn't a story in the papers or a headline on the news. This was real. This was a child, in the middle of the night, standing in front of him, asking for help. The rain kept falling, but the world seemed to stop in that moment. Without thinking, he took the girl's hand, leading her toward his car. He wasn't sure what was happening or what he was about to get into, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't walk away. Not this time. As the car sped down the slick streets, the soft rain tapping against the windshield, the billionaire couldn't help but glance over at the little girl beside him. She was quiet now, her body tense, but her small hand remained firmly gripping his, as if she were holding on to something far beyond just his hand. The brief silence between them felt heavier than the rain outside. He could feel the weight of her unspoken words, the urgency of her plea still echoing in his mind. He glanced at her again, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear, and in that moment, he realized she was not just afraid for herself, but for someone she loved. His mind raced as he thought about what had brought her here. The girl, no older than 8, had appeared in the middle of the night, desperate and alone. Her words had been simple, but the urgency in her voice told him everything he needed to know. She wasn't asking for help for herself. She was asking for her mother. The thought of a mother in need, and a child bearing the burden of that need alone, tugged at his heart. He had seen his fair share of poverty, of people in need, but this felt different. This was a child, and somehow, she had broken through the cold, hardened layers of his life. He had built his empire with precision, with logic, and with little room for emotion. Yet, here he was, offering help to a girl who seemed to have nothing but her voice and the hope that someone, anyone, would listen. "Where are we going?" he asked softly, breaking the silence. The girl didn't answer immediately, her gaze still focused on the dark road ahead. But when she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "My mom's house. She's sick. She needs help." Her words were simple, but the way she said them made it clear that there was more to the story than she was letting on. "I promise we'll help her," he said, his voice steady, though his mind was already spinning with questions. He had to admit, he wasn't sure exactly what he was getting into, but he knew he couldn't just leave her on the street. As the car rolled through the quiet, deserted streets, the girl's grip tightened on his hand. He glanced over at her again. She was so small, so fragile, Yet her presence seemed to fill the car with a quiet intensity. He could see the faintest traces of worry on her face, but there was also something else, something that made her stand out in a way that made him pause. It was strength. A strength he hadn't expected from someone so young. "Are you scared?" he asked gently, unsure if it was the right question. The girl didn't answer right away, but after a long pause, she finally spoke, her voice soft yet full of resolve. "I'm not scared for me. I'm scared for my mom. She needs help. I don't want her to die." The billionaire's heart tightened at her words. It was then that he realized just how serious this situation was. He had thought she was just another lost child in need of a handout, but now he saw her as something more, someone carrying the weight of a world she shouldn't have to carry. "We'll get to her, I promise," he said, his voice low and reassuring. The car finally turned onto a quiet street, and as they pulled up in front of a rundown building, the little girl jumped out of the car before it even fully stopped. The billionaire quickly followed, watching as she ran toward the entrance with an urgency he hadn't expected. He hurried to catch up, and as they reached the door, the girl knocked quickly, her small fists tapping against the door with a frantic rhythm. The door creaked open, and an older woman appeared. Her eyes were tired, her face pale, and she looked at the girl with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. "Mama, I brought help," the girl said, her voice trembling slightly. The woman's gaze flickered toward the billionaire, then back to her daughter, confusion and gratitude mixing in her expression. "Thank you for coming," she said weakly, her voice barely audible. The billionaire didn't know what to say. He had seen many people in need before, but this was different. This was personal. He could feel the weight of the situation, the desperation, and the silent plea for help that hung in the air. "What happened?" he asked, his voice softer now. The woman hesitated, then slowly stepped aside, allowing him to enter. As he looked around, he saw the condition of the place, the peeling wallpaper, the dim light, the absence of warmth. The air was thick with neglect. "I've been sick for a while," the woman finally said, her voice shaking. "I don't have much, but I was trying to get by." "But now," she trailed off, and the silence was deafening. The billionaire could feel the weight of her words. There was no pretense, no hiding behind pride or appearances, just the raw truth. This family was struggling, and for the first time in a long while, he felt the heavy responsibility of someone else's survival resting in his hands. As the door creaked shut behind him, the billionaire stood in the dimly lit living room, absorbing the reality of the situation. The air was thick with the smell of dampness and something else he couldn't quite place. It wasn't just the physical discomfort of the place. It was the emotional weight that seemed to press down on everything. He looked around at the peeling wallpaper, the worn-out furniture, and the faint, flickering light above. His eyes then fell on the woman lying on the couch, her face pale and drawn, and the little girl standing by her side, still clutching his hand like a lifeline. The silence hung between them, heavy and thick. "We're here to help," he said softly, though even he wasn't sure what that meant yet. The woman barely looked up at him, but he could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world had finally caught up with her. "You've already done more than anyone else," she whispered, her voice barely audible, thick with gratitude. "I don't know what else to ask for." The billionaire felt a lump form in his throat. It wasn't just about the help he had provided. There was something deeper here, something he hadn't expected when he decided to stop and listen to the girl. "You don't have to ask for anything," he replied gently. "You've already got it. All I need to know is how to help you both." The girl stepped forward then, her eyes wide but steady. She looked up at him with that same quiet strength that had caught his attention earlier. "You can help by helping my mom get better," she said. "She's been sick for a long time, and we don't have much. I don't want her to die." Her words, though simple, cut through him like a blade. He looked down at the little girl, her small frame trembling with the weight of what she had said. She wasn't just afraid of losing her mother. She was afraid of being alone. And that fear was something he understood all too well. The billionaire nodded slowly, his mind racing. He had never been particularly good at dealing with situations like this. He was a man of facts, of business deals and numbers, not of caring for people in this way. But standing here, in this tiny, dimly lit room, he realized something. He had been so caught up in his world, in his empire, that he had forgotten what it felt like to be human, to be needed. "We'll get you the help you need," he said, his voice firm, yet soft. I don't know how, but I'll make sure you both get what you deserve. The woman's eyes flickered with a hint of disbelief. She had lived in this place for so long, had struggled to survive on her own for so long, that it was hard for her to believe that someone would actually follow through. But the girl, she had the faith. And that was enough to give the billionaire something to hold on to. Thank you. The woman whispered again, her voice filled with quiet relief. You don't have to do this, but I can't tell you how much it means to us. The billionaire took a deep breath, his eyes still fixed on the woman lying on the couch. He could see the desperation in her eyes, the hope that maybe, just maybe, this would be the moment everything changed. I'll do whatever it takes, he said. But first, let's get you both to a doctor. I'll take care of everything. He turned to the girl, who was still standing at his side, her small hand gripping his tightly. You don't have to worry anymore. We're going to fix this. The girl's face softened, her shoulders relaxing slightly as she took a deep breath. She didn't say anything, but he saw it in her eyes, the smallest flicker of hope. And in that moment, he knew he had made the right decision. As they left the small apartment, heading toward his car, the billionaire couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. He had promised to help, but he wasn't sure what he was getting himself into. He had no experience with things like this, no understanding of what it meant to truly help someone in need. But as he looked down at the girl, walking beside him with quiet determination, he realized something else. It wasn't about what he knew or didn't know. It was about showing up, about doing what was right, no matter how messy or complicated it got. He had made a choice. And now, he was going to follow through. As the car drove toward the hospital, the billionaire couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something he couldn't predict. The little girl sat beside him in the back seat, still holding on to his hand as if she had nowhere else to turn. Her small fingers were cold, but the grip was tight. He glanced over at her, her face turned toward the window, her eyes lost in the city lights passing by, but her mind was somewhere far away. He had promised her he would help, but even as he drove, he realized he didn't really know what that help would look like. The hospital loomed ahead, its lights flashing through the rain, the steady hum of the city night carrying through the window. As they pulled up to the entrance, the girl was the first to move, quickly unbuckling her seatbelt and jumping out of the car. The billionaire followed her, his mind still reeling from the weight of the promise he had made. He wasn't used to feeling this uncertain, but there was something about this situation that made him feel like he was standing on the edge of something important. They hurried inside, the girl's small form moving quickly through the hallways, her eyes darting to every corner. The billionaire followed, his pace slowing as he noticed how quiet the hospital was at this hour. It was almost eerily quiet, as if the entire place had gone to sleep while the world outside kept spinning. Where are we going? He asked, his voice low. The girl looked up at him for the first time since they had left the car, her face serious, her eyes wide with concern. To see my mom, she said softly, as if the words alone were enough to make everything else fall away. The billionaire nodded, following her lead. They reached a small room at the end of a quiet hallway. The door cracked open just enough to let a sliver of light spill out. The girl pushed the door open slowly, and the billionaire stepped inside, his gaze falling on the woman lying in the bed. She was thin, her face pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes. The billionaire felt his stomach tighten at the sight. He had been expecting someone who was sick, but seeing it firsthand was a different thing altogether. The girl moved to the side of the bed, her small hand brushing against her mother's. Mama, the girl whispered, her voice shaky. I brought help. The woman stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at her daughter, then at the billionaire standing in the doorway. Her expression was one of confusion at first, but as the moments passed, a flicker of recognition crossed her face. You're the man who stopped for her, she whispered. You're the one who helped. The billionaire didn't know how to respond to that. He had simply done what anyone would do in the situation, or so he thought. But now, standing here in front of this woman, he realized just how far-reaching his actions could be. I'm just here to help, he said quietly, his gaze shifting between the woman and the little girl. The woman's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. She just looked at him, her hand reaching out weakly, as if she were trying to grasp onto something solid in the midst of all the uncertainty. The girl sat down beside her mother, holding her hand tightly. The billionaire stood silently, unsure of what to do next. He had promised help, but now that he was here, he realized it wasn't just about money or resources. It was about offering something that had been missing from this family's life: hope. "I'll get you both the care you need," the billionaire said, his voice steady, though he knew the road ahead would be anything but simple. The woman nodded slowly, her eyes closing for a moment, as if she were too exhausted to keep them open. The billionaire glanced at the little girl, who had her head resting against her mother's side, her eyes wide with concern. He could see the quiet strength in her, the way she had kept it together for so long, and it made him realize just how much she had been carrying. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you," he said to the girl, his voice soft but firm. She didn't respond, but her grip on his hand tightened just a little. It was all the confirmation he needed. He turned toward the door, his mind already working through the logistics of what needed to be done. He would make sure they got everything they needed. The girl deserved better, and her mother needed a chance to heal. As the billionaire made the arrangements for their care, he found himself thinking about the way his life had been before this moment. He had spent so much time focused on his work, on building his empire, that he had forgotten what it meant to be truly needed. But now, standing here, offering help to someone who had so little, he realized that this was the moment that mattered. Not the deals, not the acquisitions, just this. Helping a mother and daughter who had no one else. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was doing something that truly mattered. The next few days passed in a blur. The billionaire had arranged for the woman to receive immediate medical attention, and slowly, she began to improve. Her strength, though frail, was returning, and with every passing day, the light in her eyes grew a little brighter. But it wasn't just her recovery that occupied the billionaire's mind. The girl, the little one who had tugged at his heart from the moment she spoke, still held his hand tightly, her eyes filled with trust. As the woman recovered, the billionaire spent more time with the girl. They were inseparable now, and each time they spoke, he found himself more drawn to her quiet strength and compassion. He had seen many children, spoiled with wealth and privilege, but this child was different. She carried no bitterness, no resentment. Her heart was full of something far more powerful: hope. It was in the way she spoke to her mother, the way she looked after her, as though she had learned to be strong long before she should have had to. And even though she was young, her wisdom seemed endless. The little girl, whose name was Maya, didn't ask for much. She never begged, never complained. She was just there, a quiet presence that made everything feel right. The billionaire had tried to understand how she had survived all this time, how someone so small could bear so much. But each time he asked, she would just smile softly and say, "I had to." But what struck him most was how she spoke of the future. It wasn't the future he had imagined for her, full of comfort and luxury. No, she spoke of a future where her mother was well again, where they could finally have a place of their own. A future where she could give her mother everything she had been denied. "I want to learn," Maya said one evening, as they sat together in the living room. "I want to know how to help more people like us." The billionaire blinked, surprised by her words. "You already help more people than you know," he said softly. "Just by being you." Maya shook her head, her eyes determined. "No, I want to be more than just someone who helps with small things. I want to do big things, help a lot of people, make sure no one has to live like we did." The billionaire felt a tightness in his chest as he listened to her. He had heard many people speak of change, of making a difference. But there was something in Maya's voice, something pure and untainted, that made him believe in her words. In that moment, he knew he had to do something more than just offer temporary help. He had to invest in her future. He had to ensure that the world would know her, see her for the incredible person she was becoming. But first, there was something else he needed to do. He turned to her, his expression serious. "Maya, I want to help you," he said, his voice steady. "I want to make sure you get the education and opportunities you deserve. I want to make sure you're never alone, that you have everything you need to achieve your dreams." Maya's eyes widened with surprise, and for a moment, she said nothing. The weight of his words seemed to hang in the air, and the billionaire watched as she processed them. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "You mean it?" she asked, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Yes," he said, his voice firm. "I mean it. You deserve to have a future, Maya. A future where you can be whoever you want to be." She stared at him for a long moment, her small hand clutching his once more. Then, slowly, A smile tugged at the corners of her lips. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of wonder. "Thank you for believing in me." The billionaire could feel a lump in his throat. He had been a man of logic, of cold facts and numbers. But this was different. This wasn't just about money or power. It was about believing in someone, even when they had nothing but hope to give. As Maya's mother continued to recover, the billionaire made arrangements for Maya to start her education at one of the best schools in the city. It wasn't just about her academic success. It was about giving her the chance to explore her potential, to learn and grow in ways she had never been able to before. But Maya's education wasn't the only thing the billionaire was focused on. He also knew that he had to help them rebuild their lives from the ground up. They needed a home, a place where they could feel safe and secure. So, he worked with his team to find the perfect house, one that would give Maya and her mother the comfort they had been denied for so long. It wasn't just about providing for them. It was about giving them the opportunity to start over, to create a new future for themselves. Maya's mother, who had been hesitant at first, now trusted him with everything. The love and care he showed them had made all the difference. They were no longer just strangers in need, they were family. And as the billionaire watched them begin to rebuild their lives, he realized that he had done more than just offer them help. He had changed their entire world. And in doing so, he had changed his own. The days that followed felt like a dream to Maya. Her mother, now resting in the comfort of a real home, was starting to regain her strength, and for the first time in a long time, the atmosphere in their new house was filled with hope instead of fear. Every morning, Maya would wake up with a sense of purpose, knowing that the billionaire had given them not just shelter, but a chance to build a future. They were no longer just surviving, they were living. Yet, despite the newfound warmth and security, Maya couldn't shake the nagging feeling in her chest. As grateful as she was for the help, she knew there was something more she needed to do. She had been carrying the weight of her mother's illness and their hardship for so long that it was hard to let go. Her mother, who had been so used to struggling, was still adjusting to this new life. Maya could see the conflict in her eyes. Her mother didn't want to rely on the billionaire forever. But Maya also understood something that her mother hadn't quite grasped yet. They weren't being given charity. They were being given a real opportunity to change their lives. Maya had learned early on how to be self-sufficient, how to take care of her mother, how to make do with nothing. But now, she had to learn how to accept help, how to let others in. One afternoon, as they sat together at the kitchen table, Maya turned to the billionaire, her eyes wide with determination. "I want to go to school," she said quietly. The billionaire, who had been listening intently, smiled warmly. "You're already enrolled," he replied, his voice steady and reassuring. Maya's eyes widened in surprise. "What do you mean?" she asked, disbelief in her voice. "I mean that I've arranged for you to start at a school next week," he said, his tone matter of fact. "You're going to get the education you deserve, Maya. You're going to learn everything you need to make your dreams come true." Maya's heart skipped a beat. She had always dreamed of going to school, of having a chance to learn, but it had always felt out of reach. The idea that it was finally happening overwhelmed her. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The billionaire smiled and nodded, but Maya could see the pride in his eyes. It wasn't just about sending her to school. It was about believing in her potential. That was the real gift. As Maya began her first day at the new school, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had always been a shy child, and the idea of being around so many unfamiliar faces was intimidating. But when she walked into the classroom, she felt something shift inside her. The students, though initially curious, accepted her without question. They didn't see her as the poor, homeless girl who had once been nothing. They saw her for who she was, someone who was determined to learn and grow. The billionaire had told her that she had the potential to do anything she set her mind to, and for the first time, Maya truly believed it. At home, her mother had begun to adjust to the idea of their new life as well. She still felt guilty at times, still wondered if they were taking advantage of the billionaire's kindness, but every day, she saw how happy Maya was. And in turn, she began to find her own sense of peace. She started volunteering at the local community center, helping others who were in the same position she had been. She found solace in giving back, in being a part of something bigger than herself. The relationship between Maya and her mother deepened as they both grew more comfortable in their new life. They were no longer just trying to survive. They were living with purpose, and for the first time, they both had hope for the future. The billionaire, too, found himself growing more attached to them. He had never expected to become so involved in their lives, but as time went on, he realized that helping them had changed him. Maya's determination, her refusal to give up despite the odds, had inspired him in ways he couldn't quite put into words. He had spent so much of his life focusing on numbers and deals that he had forgotten the importance of compassion, of helping others without expecting anything in return. He knew that his wealth could offer them a new life, but it was their courage and resilience that had given him something far more valuable, a sense of purpose. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Maya looked up at the billionaire with a quiet expression. "I want to help people like we were helped," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I want to make sure no one has to live like we did." The billionaire nodded, his heart swelling with pride. "I have no doubt you'll do exactly that, Maya." She smiled, and for the first time, the weight of her past seemed to lift just a little. She wasn't just the girl who had been helped. She was someone who would one day help others. And in that moment, the billionaire knew that he had done the right thing. They had both found something in each other: hope, purpose, and the belief that the future could be brighter than the past. As they sat together, Maya's hand resting in her mother's, and the billionaire watching them, he knew that they had become a part of his life in ways he never expected. They weren't just his charity case. They were his family. The weeks that followed were filled with unexpected challenges and changes. Maya was thriving at her new school, her curiosity and resilience shining through in everything she did. She had quickly adapted to the new environment, making friends and excelling in her studies. But for all the progress she was making, there were moments when doubt crept in, when the weight of her past threatened to pull her back. She often lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the way things used to be, the uncertainty, the fear. It wasn't easy to let go of that part of herself, no matter how far she had come. One evening, as she sat quietly in the kitchen doing her homework, the billionaire noticed her distant expression. He had become so accustomed to seeing her with a smile on her face, a spark in her eyes, that seeing her like this made him uneasy. He stood in the doorway, watching her for a moment before speaking. "Maya, are you okay?" he asked softly. Maya looked up, startled, and then smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm fine," she said quickly, turning her attention back to the notebook in front of her. But the billionaire could see the way her hand shook slightly as she wrote. He stepped closer, sitting down across from her. "You don't have to pretend with me," he said gently. "If something's bothering you, you can talk about it." Maya hesitated, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. She opened her mouth to speak, but then closed it again. She didn't want to burden him with her fears, with the pieces of her past that still haunted her. But something in the billionaire's presence, his warmth, his patience, made her feel safe. Finally, after a long pause, she spoke. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve all of this," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like it's all too good to be true. I'm just waiting for it to go away, for everything to fall apart again." The billionaire's heart ached as he listened to her. He had never fully understood the depth of the pain she had experienced, the way she had lived in constant fear, always on edge, always waiting for the next crisis to hit. "I understand why you feel that way," he said softly. "You've been through so much, and I can't change the past. But I can tell you this. You're here now, and you deserve all the good that's coming your way. You don't have to carry the weight of the world alone anymore." Maya looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and confusion. "But what if it's not enough?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What if I don't turn out the way you expect me to?" The billionaire smiled gently, reaching across the table to take her hand in his. "Maya," he said softly, "I don't have expectations for you other than this, to be yourself. That's all I've ever wanted for you. You're not a project to me. You're a person, and I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. You've come so far already. And no matter what happens, I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in a long time, Maya felt the heavy burden in her chest lift just a little. The fear, the doubt, it didn't disappear completely, but in that moment, she realized that she wasn't alone anymore. The billionaire had become more than just someone who had given them a place to stay. He had become someone she could rely on, someone who believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. The billionaire continued to support Maya in every way he could, helping her with her studies, encouraging her to chase her dreams. He also made arrangements for Maya's mother to receive ongoing medical care and therapy. Slowly but surely, her health was improving, and with it, her confidence. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Maya turned to the billionaire with a shy smile. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice steady. "I want to help people. I want to do something big, something that will make a difference." The billionaire looked at her with a proud smile. "I think you already are," he said. "You've helped me more than you'll ever know." Maya's smile widened, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She wasn't defined by her past anymore. She wasn't just a girl who had been rescued. She was someone who could make her own future, someone who could stand tall and proud. That night, as she lay in bed, Maya thought about everything that had happened, everything that had changed. Her life was no longer a series of endless struggles. She had a future now, a future she could shape with her own hands. And as she drifted off to sleep, she knew that no matter what challenges came her way, she would face them with the strength and courage she had always had. Because now, for the first time in her life, she believed in herself. As the weeks passed, Maya began to find her rhythm in this new life she had been given. Her mother was growing stronger, slowly but steadily, and Maya's days at school became more comfortable. She had friends now, real friends, people who didn't see her as different, just another classmate. Her teachers noticed her determination and her quiet brilliance. She excelled in her studies, quickly catching up in subjects she had once fallen behind in. But despite the progress, there was still something lurking beneath the surface. Maya's doubts had not completely disappeared. It wasn't just about the education or the new home. It was about the way people looked at her. She often felt like an outsider, someone who didn't quite belong in the world that had been offered to her. The billionaire had given her everything, but even as she thrived, Maya still couldn't shake the feeling that she was somehow undeserving of it all. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, Maya spoke up, her voice hesitant. "Do you ever think I don't belong here?" she asked. The billionaire looked up from his plate, his brow furrowed in concern. "What do you mean?" he asked, setting his fork down. Maya glanced around the table, at the spacious house, the warm light filling the room, the smell of the meal they had shared. "I don't know," she said quietly. "Sometimes I feel like I don't belong here, like I'm just a guest in your life, and one day you'll realize that I don't belong." The billionaire's heart sank as he listened to her. He had hoped that Maya had settled in, that she had started to feel at home in this new life. He had worked so hard to provide for her, to give her everything he could, but the reality of what she had been through, what she had lost, was deeper than he had imagined. "Maya," he said softly, his voice gentle but firm, "you do belong here. You belong with us. You're not a guest in our lives. You are part of this family, whether you believe it or not. I made a promise to you, and I intend to keep it. You're not just someone I'm helping. You're someone I care about deeply, and you are as much a part of my world as anyone else." Maya's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away quickly, not wanting to show how much his words had affected her. She had been so used to taking care of herself, to carrying the weight of the world, that she didn't know how to accept help, how to let others truly be there for her. But in that moment, she realized something. She didn't have to carry it all alone anymore. She didn't have to hide her pain, her fear, or her uncertainty. She had a family now, and they loved her, not out of obligation, but out of choice. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. The billionaire smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "You don't have to thank me, Maya," he said. "You're my family. That's what families do. They support each other, they care for each other, and they never give up on each other. You belong here, and you always will." The next few days were quieter than usual. Maya spent time reflecting on what the billionaire had said, on the unconditional support he had shown her. She realized that he wasn't just offering her a place to live or an education. He was offering her something far more important, his belief in her, his faith that she could overcome anything. And for the first time in her life, Maya felt like she was truly seen, not as the poor girl who needed help, but as someone with potential, someone worthy of love and respect. As her confidence grew, so did her resolve. She was no longer content to just survive. She wanted to thrive, to use the opportunities she had been given to make a difference. Maya began to speak more about her dreams, about how she wanted to help others who were struggling, just like she had. The billionaire encouraged her, offering her the resources and connections she needed to turn her dreams into reality. It was then that Maya realized something powerful. Her story was not just one of survival, but one of transformation. She had been given a second chance, and she was going to make the most of it. One afternoon, as they sat together in the living room, Maya turned to the billionaire with a determined look in her eyes. "I want to start helping others," she said, her voice filled with purpose. "I don't know exactly how, but I want to make sure no one has to feel the way I did, like they're invisible or worthless. I want to be a voice for people who don't have one." The billionaire looked at her with admiration. "You already are," he said, his voice full of pride. "You've come so far, Maya. You're already changing lives just by being yourself. And I know you'll do great things." Maya smiled, a true smile, one that reached her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt sure of herself, sure of her purpose. She wasn't just the girl who had been rescued. She was someone who would one day do the rescuing. And as she sat back, thinking about the journey she had taken, Maya knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The days seemed to stretch into weeks as Maya settled into her new life, finding a rhythm that she had never experienced before. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged, like the future was no longer a vague, distant concept, but something tangible and within her reach. School was going well. She had made friends, even a couple of close ones. Her teachers saw her potential and supported her with the patience and encouragement she had never known. She found herself staying after class to ask questions, engaging in activities that once felt out of her grasp. But as Maya flourished, her mother, though physically stronger, still carried the weight of her past. There were nights when she would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, the memories of struggle creeping in. No matter how much she tried to move on, those old fears were hard to shake. Maya noticed it, and while her mother would smile and act as though everything was fine, Maya could see the quiet sorrow in her eyes. One evening, as the sun began to set and the shadows of the city stretched across the lawn, Maya sat next to her mother on the porch. The air was cool, the sound of crickets filling the silence between them. "Mom," Maya said, her voice tentative, "are you okay?" Her mother looked at her, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "I'm fine, sweetheart," she said softly, but there was a hesitation in her voice that Maya couldn't ignore. Maya reached over and took her mother's hand. "You don't have to pretend," she said, her voice strong yet full of compassion. "I know there's more you're not telling me." Her mother hesitated, then sighed, as if the weight of it all had finally become too much to keep inside. "It's just," she trailed off, looking down at their intertwined hands. "I never thought we would be here, Maya. I never thought things would be this good." Maya's heart swelled with empathy. She could see how much her mother had struggled with the idea of relying on others. For so long, she had been on her own, fighting to survive, and now, to have someone like the billionaire step into their lives, someone who had offered them so much, was still a concept her mother was learning to accept. "Mom, you deserve all of this," Maya said gently, her voice firm with conviction. "We deserve this." Her mother looked at her, her eyes welling with unshed tears. "I just don't want to be a burden to him, to anyone," she whispered. Maya squeezed her mother's hand, looking her straight in the eyes. "We're not a burden. We're family, and family helps each other. No one can do everything alone, Mom. Not even you." For the first time in a long time, her mother smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Maya leaned against her mother, feeling a deep sense of comfort in the quiet exchange. She knew her mother was finally beginning to let go of the past, starting to see that they had a future that was theirs to shape. The billionaire had given them more than just a home. He had given them a chance to rebuild, to heal, and to dream again. That night, after dinner, the billionaire came over to check on them. Maya greeted him at the door with her usual smile, but there was something different in her demeanor tonight. She had learned so much from him, about how to care, how to build a future, how to believe in yourself even when the odds are stacked against you. And tonight, she had a question for him. "Thank you," she said as he stepped into the living room. "For everything. for believing in us, for helping us. But I want to do more. I want to help others the way you helped us. The billionaire raised an eyebrow, surprised by her words. What do you mean? He asked, his voice gentle, his interest piqued. Maya took a deep breath. I've been thinking about it. I know I want to make a difference. I know I want to help people who are struggling, just like we were. I don't want anyone to feel like they're invisible, like they don't matter. And I think I can help. I think we can help. The billionaire stared at her, his heart swelling with pride. In that moment, he saw not just a young girl who had been given a second chance, but a young woman who was ready to take that chance and turn it into something bigger. You can, Maya, he said softly. And I will help you. Whatever you need, I'll be here. Maya smiled, her eyes bright with determination. I want to start a foundation. A place where kids and families can go, no questions asked. Where they can get the help they need, whether it's food, education, or just someone to listen. I want to give back. The billionaire nodded, impressed by her vision. That's a big goal, but I believe you can do it. You have everything it takes, Maya, and you don't have to do it alone. We'll make it happen together. As they talked late into the night, making plans and discussing what the foundation could look like, Maya felt a sense of purpose solidify in her chest. This was what she was meant to do. She wasn't just going to survive. She was going to thrive and help others thrive with her. The next day, the billionaire made calls to his business associates, setting up meetings to help Maya launch her foundation. He didn't hesitate, didn't question her. He believed in her, and for the first time, she believed in herself too. As the weeks passed, the foundation began to take shape. Maya became more confident in her ability to lead, and she worked tirelessly to ensure it would be a place where people could truly find the support they needed. And with the billionaire's unwavering support, she knew there was nothing she couldn't achieve. She wasn't just the girl who had been helped. She was the one helping now, and that made all the difference. As the foundation began to take shape, so did Maya's confidence in herself and her abilities. The work was demanding, but every step she took made her feel more certain that this was her path, her purpose. The billionaire, having seen her growth firsthand, was there every step of the way, not just as a mentor, but as a true partner in her vision. They spent hours discussing plans, figuring out what they could do to make the foundation as impactful as possible. He was amazed at how well she understood the needs of others, how deeply she cared about the people they were aiming to help. The foundation's focus was simple: to provide resources, support, and a sense of community for children and families who had experienced hardship. Maya's vision was to create a space where no one felt like they were alone, a place where people could find the help they needed, whether it was financial assistance, education, or simply a safe space to heal. They launched a website, started a social media presence, and held their first fundraising event, which was a huge success. People were eager to help, eager to support Maya's dream. As the weeks went by, more and more donations came in, and Maya started to see the foundation's potential unfold before her eyes. But despite the positive momentum, there were still obstacles. Maya's past wasn't something she could easily forget. There were days when doubts crept in, when the weight of what she was trying to build felt too heavy. One particular evening, as the foundation's office was quiet and empty, Maya sat alone at her desk, staring at the stack of papers in front of her. She had just finished a meeting with potential donors, and while everything had gone well, the pressure was starting to wear on her. The thought of all the people depending on her to make this work was overwhelming. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from the billionaire. How's everything going? Don't forget to take care of yourself, too. Maya smiled softly as she read the message. She appreciated his unwavering support, but she still felt like there was something missing. She hadn't fully let go of the fear that had always been a part of her life. She had been given a second chance, but the road ahead was still uncertain. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. The billionaire walked in, his face thoughtful. "You've been working too hard," he said gently, taking a seat across from her. "You can't carry all of this on your own. You need to take breaks. Trust me, I know what it's like to burn out." Maya chuckled softly. "I don't think I've quite reached that point yet, but it does feel like a lot sometimes." The billionaire leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers. "Maya, I want you to remember something. You don't have to do this alone. You've built something incredible here, and it's only going to keep growing. But you also have to allow others to help. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders." Maya looked at him, her heart full of gratitude. "I know. It's just, sometimes, I feel like if I stop, if I let go, everything will fall apart. Like it's all too much for me to handle. The billionaire smiled warmly. I understand. But you've come so far already. You're stronger than you think. And I'm here always. Maya felt a lump in her throat as she listened to him. She had always been used to taking care of herself, but for the first time, she felt like she wasn't alone anymore. She had a team, and she had people who truly cared about her and believed in her. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know where I'd be without you. The billionaire gave her a reassuring smile. You've already come so far on your own, Maya. You have everything you need to succeed. Just don't forget to lean on the people who care about you. That night, as Maya lay in bed, her mind raced with everything that had happened in the past few months. She thought about how far she had come, from a scared little girl who had only known hardship, to a young woman who was now building something that could change lives. She realized that the fears that had once held her back were slowly losing their grip. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving, and she was going to make sure that no one else had to feel alone the way she had. The next morning, Maya woke up early, feeling more determined than ever. She had a new sense of purpose, a renewed sense of self. As she sat down at her desk to go over the foundation's goals for the coming months, she realized that she had made it through the hardest part. The journey hadn't been easy, and there were still obstacles ahead, but Maya knew now that she was ready. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a leader. And with the support of the billionaire and the community she was building, she was going to change the world, one step at a time. The months passed in a whirlwind of progress, growth, and new challenges. Maya had found her footing, both in the foundation and in her own life. She had learned to balance the demands of school, her new responsibilities, and her personal aspirations. The foundation was expanding, touching more lives than she had ever dreamed. Donations were pouring in, and the support from the community was overwhelming. But with every success, there came new hurdles. The pressure was beginning to mount, and Maya was starting to feel the weight of everything she had committed herself to. She spent long hours working, making phone calls, planning events, and meeting with potential partners. The billionaire, who had remained by her side throughout the entire journey, could see the toll it was taking. He noticed how tired she looked, how her once bright smile had begun to fade under the constant strain. One afternoon, after a particularly long day, the billionaire stopped by the office. He found Maya at her desk, surrounded by papers, her eyes tired and her posture slumped. You need to take a break, he said gently, sitting across from her. Maya looked up, surprised by his sudden appearance. I'm fine, she replied quickly, brushing off his concern. There's just a lot to do. We're making progress, and I can't afford to slow down now. The billionaire frowned, watching her closely. Maya, you've done more than enough. You've built something amazing, and it's growing every day. But you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to take care of yourself too. Maya hesitated, looking down at the pile of work in front of her. She wanted to argue, to say that she couldn't stop now, but deep down, she knew he was right. She had been pushing herself too hard, trying to be everything for everyone, and in the process, she had neglected her own well-being. I don't know how to stop, she admitted softly. It feels like if I stop, everything will fall apart. The billionaire's expression softened. You've built a strong foundation, Maya. It's not just about you anymore. It's about the people you've helped and the people you continue to inspire. You don't have to carry the weight of it all on your own. For the first time in a while, Maya felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had been so focused on the future, on making sure everything went perfectly, that she had forgotten to live in the present, to enjoy the progress she had already made. Thank you, she said quietly, feeling a tear slip down her cheek. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that. The billionaire smiled, his eyes full of understanding. You're doing great, and it's okay to take a step back when you need to. You've already made a huge difference. That night, Maya decided to do something she hadn't allowed herself in a long time. She took a break. She spent time with her mother, went for a walk in the park, and allowed herself to enjoy the peace that had come with their new life. It was a small but significant shift, and it reminded her that she didn't have to do everything all at once. The next day, when Maya returned to the foundation, she felt renewed. She was still determined, still driven to make a difference, but now, she was ready to approach it with a healthier mindset. She learned to delegate tasks, trusting her team and the people around her to help carry the load. It wasn't always easy, but over time, she realized that doing so allowed her to do even more. As Maya took a step back from the constant hustle, she also began to reflect on the bigger picture. She had always been focused on helping others, but she had never stopped to think about her own journey, her own growth. She had come a long way from the scared little girl who had once begged for help. Now, she was a leader, a changemaker, and someone who had built something meaningful. And in that realization, she found a new sense of pride and confidence. But even as Maya focused on her own growth, the challenges kept coming. The foundation was gaining recognition, and with that came greater scrutiny. There were moments when the media began to take interest, digging into the details of her past and questioning the billionaire's involvement. Some of the attention was positive, but some was critical, as the foundation's success attracted a mix of admiration and skepticism. Maya didn't know how to handle the scrutiny at first. She had never been in the spotlight before, and the constant attention made her feel vulnerable. But the billionaire was there to guide her, offering advice and reassurance. "It's part of the journey," he told her one evening, as they sat in the office, going over some press coverage. "When you make a difference, people will take notice, both the good and the bad. What matters is how you respond. Keep your focus on the work, and don't let the noise distract you." His words gave Maya the strength she needed to face the challenges head-on. She began to embrace the spotlight, using it as a platform to share her message and expand the foundation's reach. With the billionaire's support and guidance, Maya became more confident in navigating the world of public attention. She learned to handle the criticism, to stand firm in her beliefs, and to always remember the true purpose behind the foundation. And as the months passed, Maya realized that the journey she had embarked on was far from over. The work she was doing, the lives she was touching, it was just the beginning. She still had so much to offer, so much to learn, and so much to give. And with the support of her family and the community she had built, Maya was ready to take on whatever came next. As the foundation continued to grow, so did the challenges that came with it. Maya found herself balancing more responsibilities than she ever thought possible. The media attention had shifted from curiosity to a more focused, critical eye, with journalists questioning not only the foundation's motives, but also the involvement of the billionaire. Maya could sense the pressure building, and while she had once been eager for the spotlight, now it felt suffocating. The stress of handling the public scrutiny was compounded by the relentless demands of running the foundation. There were meetings to attend, donors to meet, and always more children and families in need of help. She knew she was making a difference, but at times, it felt like the world was pressing in from all sides, threatening to drown her in the responsibilities. One evening, as she sat alone in her office, sorting through paperwork, the door opened, and the billionaire walked in. He had been busy with his own affairs, but he had always made time to check on her. "How are you holding up?" he asked, his voice calm and steady, but there was concern in his eyes. Maya smiled weakly. "I'm fine," she said, though she didn't feel fine at all. "Just a little overwhelmed, I guess." The billionaire took a seat across from her, studying her face. "Maya, you've been carrying this foundation and all the responsibilities on your own for far too long. You need to take a step back and let others help. You don't have to do it all." She shook her head, brushing away a strand of hair. "I want to help everyone, but I can't. Ignore the pressure. People are counting on me, and sometimes it feels like if I stop, everything will fall apart." He leaned forward, his gaze softening. "I understand the weight you're carrying, but you're not alone in this. You have a team, and more importantly, you have people who believe in you and the work you're doing. Trust in that. The foundation will thrive not because of one person, but because of the support of everyone behind it." Maya's eyes filled with tears, the tension and exhaustion finally breaking through. "I don't know if I can keep going at this pace," she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm scared that I'll fail, that all of this will collapse, and I'll let everyone down." The billionaire reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "Maya," he said gently, "you're not going to fail. You've already changed so many lives, and you will continue to do so. But you need to take care of yourself, too. You're just as important as the work you're doing." Maya took a deep breath, the weight of his words sinking in. She realized that she had been so focused on helping others that she had neglected to take care of herself. It wasn't a weakness to ask for help, to lean on others when things became overwhelming. In that moment, Maya made a decision. She was going to take a step back, even if it was just for a little while. She couldn't keep carrying the entire weight of the foundation on her shoulders. With the billionaire's support, she began to delegate more, trusting her team to handle things while she focused on recharging. Slowly, Maya started to find balance in her life again. She took time to rest, to spend time with her mother, and to enjoy the simple pleasures that she had once taken for granted. As she regained her strength, she realized that the foundation didn't need to be her sole focus all the time. She could care for herself and still make a difference. The following weeks brought a renewed sense of purpose. Maya continued to lead the foundation, but now she had a clearer vision of what it meant to truly lead. It wasn't just about being everywhere at once. It was about making thoughtful, intentional decisions and allowing others to share the responsibility. She could see the change in herself, in the way she approached her work, and the results spoke for themselves. With Maya's newfound balance, the foundation reached new heights. They expanded their programs, helping more children and families than ever before. Donations continued to pour in, and the media attention, once critical, started to shift toward admiration. Maya had learned to trust in her team, and in doing so, she had allowed the foundation to grow in ways she hadn't imagined. One afternoon, as she sat in the office, reflecting on how far they had come, she received a message from the billionaire. It simply said, "I'm proud of you, Maya. You've built something incredible." Those words meant more to her than anything else. She had started this journey as a scared little girl, unsure of her place in the world. Now, she was a young woman who had built something that would last, something that would help countless people, just as she had once been helped. Maya sat back in her chair, a smile tugging at her lips. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving, and she was going to make sure that no one else ever had to feel like they were alone, just as she had once felt. With the foundation growing and her sense of purpose stronger than ever, Maya was ready for whatever came next. She wasn't just going to help the world, she was going to change it. Months passed, and the foundation continued to thrive. Maya, though still young, had stepped into her role as a leader with a grace and determination that surprised even herself. She had built something meaningful, something that would impact the lives of so many people. But despite the progress, the pressure was mounting again. The success of the foundation had caught the attention of several powerful figures, some who had nothing but praise for her work, while others were more skeptical. It was clear that with success came its own set of challenges. The media started to take a deeper interest, with more reporters asking questions about the billionaire's involvement. They wondered about the true motivations behind his support of Maya and the foundation. Maya, who had always wanted to remain out of the spotlight, now found herself in the midst of public scrutiny once again. One evening, as she sat at her desk in the office, reviewing some financial reports, her phone buzzed. It was a message from the billionaire. "Are you free to meet tomorrow? We need to talk about some things." Maya hesitated for a moment before replying, "Sure, I'll be there." The next morning, she met the billionaire at a cafe. As she sat down, she noticed the serious look on his face. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep her tone light, though she could feel the weight of the situation. The billionaire took a deep breath. "I've been reading some of the media coverage, and I know things are starting to get complicated. There are rumors, Maya. They're starting to question our motives." Maya nodded, feeling a knot form in her stomach. "I know," she said quietly. "I can feel it too. It's just, I don't know what to do about it." The billionaire's eyes softened. "You don't have to do anything, Maya. You've built this foundation from the ground up, and it's doing incredible things. But the attention, the questions, they're going to keep coming. You need to be prepared." Maya stared down at her coffee cup, her mind racing. She had never imagined that her dream of helping others would come with this level of scrutiny. "What if they're right?" she whispered, more to herself than to him. "What if I'm not enough? What if they find out I don't know what I'm doing?" The billionaire reached across the table, placing a hand over hers. "Maya, you are more than enough. You've done more than most people could ever dream of. You've created something that will last, something that will continue to change lives. Don't let the noise distract you." Maya looked up at him, feeling the weight of his words settle in her heart. She had always been afraid of not measuring up, of being seen as just a girl with a dream. But now, with his support, she realized that she had already proven herself. She had built something real. "Thank you," she said softly. I don't know what I would do without you. The billionaire smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. You're stronger than you think, Maya. And you're not alone in this. You've built a team, a community. Lean on them. Maya took a deep breath, feeling a sense of clarity she hadn't had before. The pressure was still there, but it no longer felt like a weight she had to carry alone. She had people who believed in her, who had supported her from the beginning. And she realized that she didn't have to prove anything to anyone. She just needed to keep doing the work, to keep helping the people who needed it most. As the weeks went on, Maya became more confident in handling the media attention. She learned to deflect the questions that felt invasive and focused on the work that truly mattered. The foundation continued to grow, expanding its reach and helping more families than ever. Maya's mother, once so fragile and uncertain, had found a new sense of purpose as well. She began working with Maya at the foundation, helping to coordinate outreach programs and mentoring other families who had faced similar struggles. It was a slow process, but Maya could see the change in her mother. She was no longer a woman defined by her past. She was a woman with her own future, one that she could now shape alongside her daughter. One evening, after a long day of meetings and events, Maya sat with her mother on the porch of their new home. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the yard. Maya leaned back in her chair, feeling the warm breeze against her skin. Her mother, sitting beside her, looked over at her with a proud smile. I never imagined we would be here, her mother said quietly, her voice full of emotion. Maya smiled, her heart full. Neither did I, she admitted. But we made it. We're making a difference. Her mother nodded, her eyes shining. You've always had the strength in you, Maya. I'm just glad you found your way. Maya looked at her mother, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. This wasn't just a success for her. It was a success for both of them. They had both come so far, and they had done it together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Maya realized that this was just the beginning. The foundation had accomplished so much, but there was still so much more to do. And she was ready for whatever came next, with the support of her family and her team. They had built something that would last, and no matter what challenges lay ahead, Maya knew they would face them together. As the months continued to pass, Maya's confidence grew, but so did the challenges. The foundation had expanded its reach, helping countless families and children who had faced hardships similar to what Maya had experienced. But with success came not only praise, but also jealousy, and some people began to question the source of the foundation's support. Rumors spread, and whispers filled the air. Some claimed that the billionaire was only helping Maya for his own gain, that his involvement was self-serving. While most of the media supported her, the negative attention was starting to take a toll on Maya's mental state. She couldn't ignore it, no matter how hard she tried. She had always been someone who sought to do good, to help those in need, and now people were questioning her motives. She wasn't just facing scrutiny for the work she was doing, but also for the very way she had risen from nothing. One afternoon, as she sat at her desk, the weight of everything, her work, the foundation, the media, began to press down on her. Her hands trembled as she sifted through documents, trying to focus, but her mind kept drifting. She was exhausted, physically and emotionally. The constant pressure was beginning to feel unbearable. She felt like a failure, like no matter how much she did, it was never going to be enough. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from the billionaire. How are you holding up? Let's talk. Maya stared at the message for a moment before responding. I'm fine, just a little overwhelmed. The billionaire didn't wait long before calling her. Maya, he said when she answered, you're not alone in this. We've been through a lot together, and we'll get through this too. But you need to take a step back, for yourself. Don't let all the noise distract you from why you started this in the first place. Maya could feel the weight of his words. She had started this journey to help people, to make a difference, but now she was tangled in the expectations of others. She didn't know how to break free from the suffocating pressure. I don't know if I can keep going, she admitted. Everything feels like it's falling apart. I feel like I'm not enough. The billionaire's voice softened. You are more than enough, Maya. You've built something incredible, and you've touched so many lives. The opinions of others don't define you. What matters is the impact you're making, the change you're bringing to the world. The foundation is thriving because of you, not because of anyone else's opinion. Maya took a deep breath, her chest tight with emotion. She wanted to believe him, but the doubts still lingered. But what if they're right? She whispered. What if I'm just pretending to be something I'm not? What if I don't have what it takes? The billionaire paused, his voice calm but resolute. You are exactly who you're meant to be, Maya. And that's more than enough. I've seen it firsthand. Your heart, your vision, your dedication. You're not pretending, you're leading. You're making a difference in ways that words can't describe. Maya was silent for a moment, the tears threatening to fall. I've never had anyone believe in me like this, she said, her voice breaking. I don't want to let you down. The billionaire smiled through the phone. You won't let me down. You've already exceeded anything I could have imagined. Now, it's time for you to believe in yourself the way I believe in you. Maya nodded, even though she wasn't sure she was ready. But his words planted a seed of hope in her heart. She had already come so far, and no matter what happened next, she knew she couldn't give up. The next day, Maya took the time to reflect. She had spent so much of her life doubting herself, afraid that she would fail, that she wasn't enough. But as she looked back at everything she had achieved, at how far she had come, she realized that the doubts were just that, doubts. They didn't define her. What defined her was the impact she was making on the lives of those around her. She had come from nothing, from a place of fear and uncertainty, and now she was creating something that would outlast her. With the support of the billionaire and her growing team, Maya knew she could weather any storm. The next time she faced criticism, she would take a step back, breathe, and remember why she started. She wasn't just building a foundation. She was building a legacy. Maya decided to take a step back from the pressures of running everything on her own. She trusted her team to carry the weight of day-to-day operations, allowing herself the time to recharge and refocus. It was a difficult decision, but one that brought her peace. The foundation was strong, and it had the right people to continue its mission. As Maya spent more time with her mother, who had found her own voice through volunteering and helping others, she felt the pieces of her life fall into place. Maya wasn't just helping others anymore. She was healing herself, learning to accept the love and support that had been offered to her, and trusting in her own strength. She realized that the journey she had started wasn't just about helping others. It was about finding herself, too. And as the foundation continued to grow, Maya knew that she was ready for whatever came next. The world was watching, but this time, she wasn't afraid. She had her purpose, her team, and the belief that together, they could do anything. The foundation had reached a point where it was more than just a mission. It had become a movement. People from all over the country were reaching out, offering help, donations, and ideas. Maya's vision was expanding beyond her wildest dreams. And yet, with this new success came an unexpected challenge. A series of new threats had begun to surface. Individuals who sought to undermine the progress Maya had made and the future she was building. There were whispers from those who feared the impact of her work, those who doubted the legitimacy of the foundation and its supporters. Maya had faced challenges before, but this time, the threat felt different. The pressure of external forces was beginning to have an impact on her, and her team began to notice it too. The constant surveillance, the articles questioning the foundation's true motives, and even some legal threats made it clear that not everyone was happy with the progress she had made. One evening, as Maya sat in the office late into the night, going over the latest documents and press clippings, she heard a knock on the door. It was the billionaire, his usual calm demeanor replaced with a sense of urgency. Maya, we need to talk, he said, stepping into the room and shutting the door behind him. Maya looked up, her expression weary. What's going on? She asked, sensing the tension in his voice. There are rumors circulating, the billionaire began, and it's more than just bad press now. Some powerful figures are trying to challenge the legitimacy of the foundation. They're digging into your past, questioning the donors, and some are even calling for an investigation. Maya's heart sank. The weight of it all hit her in that moment. She had always known there would be obstacles, but the idea that the foundation she had worked so hard to build was being attacked from all sides was overwhelming. What can we do? Maya asked, her voice trembling slightly. The billionaire took a deep breath. We need to prepare. I'm setting up a team of lawyers, and we'll defend the foundation's integrity. But I also want you to understand something. This isn't just about your reputation. It's about the people who rely on you, the families who need the support. Maya nodded, the reality of the situation settling in. She had always been willing to fight for what she believed in, but this felt different. This wasn't just a personal fight anymore. It was a fight for the future of the foundation and everything it stood for. I'll stand by you through this, Maya. The billionaire continued, his voice steady. We've built something strong, and no matter what happens, we're not backing down. Maya took a deep breath, her determination returning. She had worked too hard to let this setback define her. We won't let them win, she said quietly, her resolve stronger than ever. We'll keep fighting. Over the next few days, Maya found herself at the center of a media storm. Reporters from across the country descended on the foundation's headquarters, asking questions that ranged from the reasonable to the absurd. Some questioned her integrity. Others targeted the billionaire's involvement, suggesting that his support was merely a way for him to further his own interests. Maya, despite the pressure, remained calm. She knew she couldn't control what people said, but she could control how she responded. Every interview, every statement, she made sure to speak from the heart. She spoke about the work the foundation had done, about the people they had helped, and most importantly, about the mission that had always been at the core of it all, to provide support and opportunity to those who had none. Meanwhile, the billionaire worked tirelessly behind the scenes, gathering legal support and protecting the foundation from those trying to tear it down. The legal battle was tough, but he was committed. And as the days turned into weeks, the pressure began to ease. The public began to see through the lies and rumors, and support for the foundation grew stronger. But the journey had left its mark on Maya. The stress, the uncertainty, the weight of it all, it had taken a toll on her. And one evening, after a particularly long day of meetings, the billionaire noticed the exhaustion in her eyes. Maya, you've done everything, he said softly. It's okay to take a step back now. You've proven more than enough. The foundation is strong, and you don't have to carry it all on your shoulders. Maya looked at him, her heart full of gratitude. I've always been afraid of letting go, she admitted, her voice soft. Afraid that if I did, everything would fall apart. The billionaire smiled warmly, his eyes full of understanding. You don't have to do this alone. You've built a team, a support system. Let them help you carry this weight. Maya took a deep breath, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. She had spent so long trying to prove herself, trying to live up to the expectations of others, that she had forgotten how to lean on the people who cared about her. But now, she realized, she didn't have to do everything herself. She had a team, a family, and they would be with her every step of the way. As the weeks passed, the foundation continued to flourish. Maya learned to delegate, to trust the people around her, and to focus on what mattered most, the people they were helping. The media's scrutiny died down, and the foundation's mission remained unwavering. Maya's relationship with the billionaire had deepened, and he had become not just a mentor, but a true friend. Together, they had weathered the storm, and now they could see the bright future ahead. Maya had come so far. She had fought for herself, for the foundation, and for the people she cared about. And now, with everything she had learned, she was ready for whatever came next. The foundation was not just a place for people to receive help. It had become a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience. And Maya knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with the same strength and determination that had brought her this far. As the months went by, the foundation continued to grow, and Maya found herself facing a new chapter in her journey. The team she had assembled was strong, and with the billionaire's unwavering support, they had overcome the challenges that had threatened to derail them. The media had finally quieted down, and the foundation's work was being recognized across the country. Yet, despite all of their achievements, Maya knew that the hardest part was still ahead. She had always been determined to make a difference, but now the stakes were higher than ever. The more people they helped, the more people needed help. The foundation's success had created a ripple effect, and Maya was beginning to realize that she couldn't do it alone. It wasn't just about running the foundation anymore. It was about creating a legacy, something that would continue to grow even after she was no longer at the helm. One evening, as she sat at her desk, surrounded by reports and plans for the future, Maya found herself staring at the papers in front of her, feeling a sense of uncertainty she hadn't felt in a long time. She had always been confident in her mission, but now, with the foundation's success, came the weight of responsibility. The future was no longer a vague idea. It was real, and it was up to her to ensure the foundation continued to flourish. She had always relied on her own strength, But now she was starting to wonder if it was time to let go of the reins and trust others with the foundation's future. She thought back to the billionaire's words, "You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your own." Maya had built something incredible, but as the foundation expanded, so did the complexity of its operations. She knew she had to find a way to balance her role as a leader with the need for delegation. The pressure to keep everything running smoothly was overwhelming, and she had to acknowledge that she couldn't do it all. As she mulled over these thoughts, there was a knock at the door. The billionaire stepped inside, his face thoughtful. "Maya," he said, taking a seat across from her. "How are you holding up?" Maya smiled faintly. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice lacked the usual conviction. "It's just a lot. The foundation's doing well, but I'm starting to feel like I'm losing control of it." "Oh." The billionaire studied her carefully, his expression kind but firm. "Maya, you've done an incredible job. But remember, you don't have to do it all alone. You've built a team, and now it's time to trust them. You've laid the foundation. Now it's time to let others help you carry it." Maya sighed, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders just by hearing him say the words. She knew he was right, but it was hard for her to let go of the responsibility. "I've never been good at asking for help," she admitted quietly. "I've always done everything myself. It's hard to trust that others can do it the way I would." The billionaire smiled gently. "You don't need to do everything the way you would. You've surrounded yourself with people who believe in the mission. It's time to let them take the lead on some of the day-to-day tasks. You've earned the right to step back and focus on what truly matters." Maya thought about it for a moment. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now, the idea of letting others take on more responsibility felt both freeing and terrifying. But deep down, she knew he was right. The foundation was bigger than her, and it was time to build something that would outlast her. "You're right," she said finally, her voice filled with resolve. "It's time." The following weeks were a period of transition. Maya began to delegate more tasks to her team, trusting them to handle the day-to-day operations. It wasn't easy at first, but with the billionaire's support, she began to find a balance. She spent more time focusing on the future, on the bigger picture. She worked closely with her team to create a strategic plan for the next phase of the foundation's growth, making sure that their goals aligned with the mission. Maya also began to travel more, visiting other communities in need, and seeing firsthand the impact the foundation was having. She realized that the work they were doing was changing lives, but there was so much more to be done. The foundation had become a beacon of hope, a lifeline for so many families, and Maya knew that they could reach even more people if they continued to expand. But as the foundation grew, so did the challenges. The resources needed to support the growing number of people they helped became more complex. Maya found herself making difficult decisions, navigating the delicate balance between growth and sustainability. It wasn't easy, but she was determined to see it through. One day, while visiting a new community the foundation had begun to support, Maya had a conversation with a young mother who had been helped by the organization. The woman, who had 2 small children and was struggling to make ends meet, looked up at Maya with tears in her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. "Without the foundation, we would have nothing. You've given me hope, a chance to give my children something better." Maya felt a lump form in her throat as she listened to the woman's words. This was why she had done all of it, why she had pushed through the doubt and the struggles. For moments like this, when she could see the impact of their work in the eyes of someone whose life had been changed. As Maya left the community center that day, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she knew that the foundation was on the right path. She had built something that was bigger than herself, and with her team by her side, she knew they could continue to make a difference in the lives of so many more families. The future was still unknown, but for the first time in a long time, Maya felt ready to face whatever came next. She wasn't just leading the foundation. She was shaping a legacy that would endure long after she was gone. As the foundation continued to grow and make an impact, Maya began to realize that with great success came great responsibility. The challenges she had faced in the past seemed small compared to the hurdles ahead. While her own growth was undeniable, it was becoming clear that she had to find a way to expand not just the foundation, but her own role as a leader. She had learned to trust her team and had come to rely on them more than ever, but now, it was time for her to step into a new phase of leadership. The growing media attention, both positive and negative, made it harder for Maya to keep her focus. There were still critics who questioned the foundation's motives, despite the visible change it was making. But Maya had learned not to let these distractions control her. The work was too important, and the people who needed help couldn't afford for her to back down now. One afternoon, as Maya sat in her office, reviewing plans for an upcoming event, the billionaire called her. "Maya, I think it's time we talk about the next step in this journey," he said, his voice filled with both excitement and concern. Maya paused, setting down the papers in front of her. "What do you mean?" she asked, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "I've been thinking about the foundation's future," he said. "You've done an incredible job building this, but now it's time for you to really think about your legacy. What do you want the foundation to become in the next 5 to 10 years? Maya felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. The future felt like a vast unknown, a horizon she had never dared to fully consider. "I've been so focused on getting through the day-to-day that I haven't really thought about that," she admitted. The billionaire chuckled softly. "That's exactly why we need to talk. You've created something that has the potential to change not just your community, but entire regions, even the nation. But for that to happen, we need to take it to the next level." Maya looked out the window, feeling the weight of his words sink in. This wasn't just about helping a few families anymore. It was about creating a system that could impact the lives of millions. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," she said quietly, her heart racing. "It's a huge responsibility." "Maya," the billionaire replied gently, "you've been carrying a lot on your shoulders, but you're not alone in this anymore. You've built a team, and now it's time to grow that team. It's time to take the foundation from something incredible to something unstoppable. And I believe you're the person to lead that change." The silence hung between them for a moment, and Maya felt a mix of fear and excitement bubble up inside her. Could she really do it? Could she take the foundation to the heights it was capable of reaching? She had worked so hard to get this far, but this was a new level of commitment, a new level of leadership. "What do you suggest?" "We do," she asked, her voice steady. "First," he said, "we need to start by building a network of people who share your vision. People who can help push the foundation to the next level. I know it's a lot, but it's time to think bigger, to reach more people, and make an even greater impact." The idea of expanding the foundation made Maya nervous, but it also lit a fire inside her. She had always been someone who wanted to help as many people as possible, and now she saw a path to do just that. "I'm ready," she said finally, her voice filled with newfound confidence. "Let's do it." Over the next several weeks, Maya worked with the billionaire to expand the foundation's reach. They began to forge partnerships with other organizations, leaders, and influencers who shared their vision. Maya spent time meeting with potential collaborators, speaking at conferences, and building a network of support that extended beyond her immediate circle. As she did, she began to realize that the growth of the foundation was not just about numbers or programs. It was about creating a culture of compassion and action that could inspire others to do the same. It wasn't just about giving people money or resources. It was about empowering them to take control of their own futures. As the foundation's influence grew, so did Maya's sense of purpose. The more she connected with others, the more she saw how much potential there was to make a difference on a larger scale. Maya began to travel more, meeting people who had been impacted by the foundation's work. Each story she heard only strengthened her resolve. She was doing the right thing. But as the foundation expanded, there were moments when Maya felt overwhelmed again. The bigger it got, the more complicated things became. There were moments of doubt, moments when she questioned whether she was truly ready for the challenge. But with every setback came a new lesson. Maya learned to lean on her team even more, trusting them to carry the weight when it became too much for her alone. The foundation's success was no longer just about her. It was about the collective effort of everyone involved. As she stood before a crowd at a national fundraising event, Maya realized just how far she had come. The little girl who had once been lost and unsure of her place in the world was now standing at the forefront of a movement, leading a foundation that was changing lives. She wasn't doing it alone anymore. She had built something real, something that would continue to grow and make a difference long after she was gone. Maya looked out at the crowd, her heart full of gratitude and pride. She had started this journey not knowing where it would lead, but now she could see the path ahead. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a leader, a force for change, and she knew that the future was bright. As the foundation grew, so did Maya's role. She had always known that her journey would be a long one. But now, the scope of what she was building was beginning to feel overwhelming. With each new success came more responsibility, more pressure, and the constant weight of expectations. Yet, despite all the challenges, Maya felt more driven than ever. The team she had built was strong, the people she worked with were passionate, and the vision she had was beginning to unfold in ways she hadn't anticipated. But there were moments when doubt crept in. She was no longer the girl who had started the foundation with nothing but hope and a dream. She was a leader now, and that came with a new set of challenges. The world was watching her, and the spotlight was both a blessing and a burden. One night, after an exhausting day of meetings and phone calls, Maya found herself sitting alone in the office, staring at the documents in front of her. She had been working nonstop for weeks, and the pressure was starting to take a toll. Her mind was racing with thoughts of everything that needed to be done, every challenge they still had to face. As she rubbed her eyes, a message from the billionaire popped up on her phone. "Are you free to talk?" it read. Maya hesitated before responding. "Sure." Moments later, the phone rang. The billionaire's voice was calm, but there was a hint of concern in it. "Maya, I've been meaning to check in with you. I know things have been a lot lately, but I want to make sure you're doing okay." Maya let out a deep sigh, feeling the weight of the question. "I'm fine," she replied, though she knew her tone didn't sound convincing. "It's just a lot to juggle, and sometimes it feels like it's all too much." The billionaire paused, letting her words settle. "You've done more than most people could ever dream of, Maya. But remember, you don't have to carry the entire weight on your own. You've built a team, a network of support. Lean on them." Maya's throat tightened. "I don't know how to do that," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've always had to do everything myself. It's hard to trust others with something so important." There was a long pause before the billionaire spoke again, his voice gentle but firm. "Maya, this isn't just your burden to carry anymore. You've created something incredible, and now it's time to let others help you bear the load. You've earned the right to let go a little." His words hit Maya deeply. For so long, she had carried the weight of the foundation on her own shoulders, never allowing herself to lean on anyone. She had built this from the ground up, and it was hard to imagine anyone else taking the reins. But she knew he was right. She couldn't do everything herself. The pressure was too much. "I'll try," she said softly, finally allowing herself to admit that she didn't have all the answers. The billionaire smiled, the warmth in his voice unmistakable. "You don't have to be perfect, Maya. You just have to be yourself. That's what everyone admires about you. Your authenticity, your heart, and your vision. That's what's going to continue driving the foundation forward." Over the next few days, Maya made an effort to delegate more tasks to her team. It wasn't easy at first. She still felt the pull to take control of every detail, but she realized that in order to lead effectively, she had to trust the people around her. She had to let go of the need to do it all. As she began to step back, Maya noticed something surprising. The team was more than capable of handling the work. In fact, they were thriving. The foundation's operations ran more smoothly, and Maya found herself able to focus on the larger vision, expanding their reach, growing partnerships, and continuing to help more people. One afternoon, as Maya walked through the office, she overheard a conversation between two of her team members. They were talking about a new initiative they were planning, one that would allow the foundation to provide scholarships to young people who had faced similar hardships to Maya's. Listening to them, Maya felt a surge of pride. This wasn't just her vision anymore. It was theirs too. They were all working together, each person bringing their own strengths and ideas to the table. As she walked into her office, the billionaire was waiting for her. He gave her a nod of approval. "I'm proud of you, Maya," he said. "You've built something incredible here, and now you're learning to lead in a way that will sustain it for years to come." Maya smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. She had come so far, and now, she was not just surviving, she was thriving. But the journey wasn't over. There were still challenges to face, and Maya knew that there would always be obstacles to overcome. However, for the first time in a long time, she felt ready. She wasn't alone. She had a team, a family, and the support of the people who believed in her. She had learned the importance of trusting others, of sharing the burden. And with that, Maya knew that no matter what the future held, she was prepared to face it head-on. The foundation was no longer just a reflection of her dreams. It was a living, breathing testament to the power of community, of shared vision, and of the strength that comes when people come together for a greater cause. As the foundation continued to grow, so did the number of people reaching out for help. The team was expanding, and the impact of their work was being felt across the country. But with success came new challenges. The larger the foundation grew, the more complex the needs became. There were logistical issues, new partnerships to manage, and constant pressure to keep up with the increasing demand. Maya had always prided herself on being hands-on, but now she was facing a reality where she couldn't do it all. She had to find a way to balance the demands of running a national organization with the personal connections that had always been at the heart of her work. One afternoon, after another long day of meetings and phone calls, Maya sat at her desk in the quiet of the office, staring at the reports in front of her. She had made so much progress, but it felt like the foundation was constantly evolving, always needing more. The phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was the billionaire. "Maya, are you free to talk?" Maya sighed and tapped the screen. Of course. Within moments, he was on the line. "How are you holding up?" His voice was calm, but she could hear the concern behind the question. Maya paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I'm fine," she said, though she knew her tone wasn't convincing. "It's just, there's a lot going on. The foundation is growing, but it feels like I'm stretched thinner every day. I don't know how much longer I can keep up at this pace." The billionaire's voice softened. "Maya, I can hear the exhaustion in your voice. You've done more than anyone could have expected, but you don't have to do this alone. You've built a strong team, and they're ready to take more responsibility." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. She knew he was right. She had been reluctant to let go of some of the control, afraid that if she did, things wouldn't be done the way she wanted. But the reality was, she couldn't do everything herself. "I know," she admitted. "It's just hard to let go. This is my vision, and I want to make sure it stays true to what I've always wanted for it." "And it will," the billionaire reassured her. "But you have to trust in the team you've built. They share your vision, and they can help you carry the weight. You don't have to hold it all yourself." Maya took a deep breath. The thought of trusting others with such an important mission was difficult, but she knew he was right. She had come so far, and the foundation had grown beyond her, and that was a good thing. It was time to let others step up and take on more. "Okay," Maya said, her voice steadier now. "I'll do it. I'll trust them." The billionaire smiled, even though she couldn't see it. "I know you will. And I'll be here to support you, every step of the way." In the weeks that followed, Maya began to delegate more responsibilities. It wasn't easy at first, and there were moments of doubt when she thought about taking back control. But each time she reminded herself that the team had proven themselves capable. Slowly, she began to focus more on the larger strategic goals for the foundation, expanding programs, reaching more people, and creating long-term partnerships. As Maya worked on these bigger picture goals, she found herself traveling more often. She visited communities where the foundation had made an impact, listening to the stories of people whose lives had been changed. She met with donors and potential partners, advocating for the foundation's mission and building relationships that would ensure its future. One afternoon, as Maya sat on a plane flying to a new city for another round of meetings, she reflected on how far she had come. She had started this journey as a young girl, uncertain of her place in the world, and now she was leading a national organization that was changing lives. She had become the person she had always hoped to be, the person who could make a difference. When she arrived at her destination, she was greeted by the team she had been working with in that city. They had organized an event to raise awareness for the foundation, and Maya was the keynote speaker. As she walked into the event, she felt a surge of emotion. She was no longer just a young woman with a dream. She was the face of an organization that had touched thousands of lives. The crowd was filled with families, supporters, and people who had benefited from the foundation's programs. When Maya took the stage, she was met with a standing ovation. It was humbling, but it also filled her with pride. She had built this from the ground up, and now it was stronger than ever. She spoke about the foundation's mission, about the people they had helped, and about the future she envisioned, a future where no one had to go without the support they needed. She talked about the importance of community, of working together, and of never giving up on the dream of making the world a better place. After her speech, people lined up to meet her, to thank her for the work the foundation had done. Maya smiled, shook hands, and took pictures, but what stood out most to her was the sense of connection she felt with these people. They weren't just thanking her for her work, they were thanking her for believing in them, for showing them that they mattered. As she left the event, Maya felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. The foundation was no longer just her vision. It was a living, breathing entity, supported by a community of people who believed in the mission. Maya had created something that was bigger than herself. And for the first time in a long time, she was ready to let go of the fear, to trust others, and to focus on what came next. The future was uncertain, but Maya knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened, she wouldn't face it alone. As the years went by, Maya's journey continued to evolve. The foundation she had built was no longer just an idea. It had become a national symbol of hope and change. The impact they had made was undeniable, with thousands of families helped, communities empowered, and lives transformed. What had once seemed like a far-off dream was now a thriving reality. But as Maya stood at the helm, she realized that the true measure of success was not in the accolades or the recognition. It was in the people whose lives had been changed because of the work she had started. It was in the families that now had opportunities, the children who were able to pursue their dreams, and the communities that had found strength in unity. The foundation had become more than just a charity. It had become a movement that would continue to grow and inspire future generations. But Maya had changed too. She was no longer the young girl who had walked into the billionaire's office with nothing but hope and determination. She had learned so much over the years, about leadership, about resilience, and about the importance of trusting others. The foundation's growth was no longer just about meeting the needs of today. It was about planning for a future where no one was left behind. The team she had built was now leading the way, and she had learned to step back and let them shine. She had learned that leadership wasn't about being at the front of the room, but about empowering others to rise up and take ownership of their own success. And as she looked around at the people who had become part of her life, the team, the supporters, the people they had helped, she knew that her work wasn't done. The journey she had started was just the beginning. Maya knew that there would always be challenges, always be obstacles to overcome. But she had faith in the foundation they had built, and in the people who had joined her on this journey. She had faith in herself, too. The fears she had once carried, the doubts that had held her back, were now nothing more than distant memories. She had found her voice, her purpose, and her strength. And with the support of those around her, she was ready for whatever the future held. One evening, as she stood on the balcony of her home, looking out over the city, Maya reflected on everything that had brought her to this point. She had come a long way, from a scared, uncertain young girl to a leader who had changed the lives of so many. She had learned the importance of trusting others, of allowing herself to receive help, and of understanding that success was not something to be achieved alone. The work of the foundation was still ongoing, but Maya knew that the path she had set in motion would continue long after she was gone. The next generation of leaders was already rising, inspired by the work she had done, ready to take on the mantle of change. Maya smiled to herself as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the city. She wasn't done yet. There was still so much to do. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid of what the future held. She knew she had built something that was bigger than herself, something that would endure. And with that knowledge, Maya felt at peace. She had made a difference, and that was all that mattered.